Hello, everyone. Welcome to our class on living as an empath, tips, tools, and skills for having the kind of energetic boundaries that allow your life to work. So I'm Evelina Rose, and we'll be meeting 6 Mondays, and I would like this to be an interactive class. So if you will, look down on your lower left and see the hand. And if you will, use that hand. You'll see if you click on it, you can raise your hand. There's a happy face, a sad face, a confused face, and a slipped away. There we go. Hope you don't slip away. This whole class builds on itself. So I'd love for you to really devote yourself to being here. So if you will, I'd like you to raise your hand if you watch the introductory class. So I know how many have actually seen that half-hour free video. So the lower left, find that hand, looks like a hand, and raise it if you've watched that introductory class. I may repeat a little bit of what was in there. And we also get to really flesh out the details of what we learned there in that class. Beautiful. It looks like most of you have. So this is wonderful. I'm seeing people from other countries, Puerto Rico and other states and California. Love that you're all here. Thank you. So one of the things they found about trying to multitask is it really doesn't work. And while you're a part of this class, I'd love for you to put everything else away and really devote yourself to being here. I think in that way, you're going to get the most from the work. If your internet connection isn't working, you can find the phone number at the top of the chat box and call in. And it might just be easier that way. So, and then the last part, I'll be channeling the Council of 12. So there'll be opportunities to ask questions, to personalize it to whatever it is that you might wish to learn more about from the class. So we're going to release the hands that were raised. And I also want to find out how many of the people here are someone who takes on other people's emotions, that somehow you feel their feelings. You might just walk into a room and feel something that's going on in the room, or you might know what they're feeling before they do. Also, you might find that this empath ability, while it really serves, it's beautiful when you're doing therapy, if you're doing work with people, if you're doing body work, it also can be rather challenging. So use that raising of your hand to show me how many of you are an empath or a highly sensitive person. And while you do that, I'm going to tell you a little story. The other day I came and I sat down next to someone I was working with, and I'd been feeling really good. And I sat there and I went, whoa, you must really be in pain. And she said, well, yeah, some. And I said, do you have a headache? And she went, yeah. And I said, about here? And she said, exactly here. So for that moment, I too had a headache. That's what I mean about the challenge of being an empath, that your boundaries can be permeable enough that you actually feel what the other person's feeling. So I had to practice what I'm teaching and really bring my energy down into my core, arrive so completely inside myself, bring my light around and push out everyone else's energy so I could sit there without her pain. That allows me to be much more useful to the other person because the pain is there, not inside me. I think of it as learning how to stay in my light body rather than merging with someone else's pain body. How many people were yes? I have a helper here, which is wonderful. So, quite a few of us find ourselves being an empath. I think that it's one of the finest skills that we have. I imagine that you find being sensitive in this way gives you a lot of information, helps you know more of what's going on. Empaths tend to be very artistic, very creative. We tend to be great communicators. So it's a beautiful skill for people who use listening as part of their work, and empaths tend to get into those professions. We tend to be able to be very expressive and really interact with people until we get overwhelmed, and then we may need to be reclusive and withdraw from people. So the skills we're going to work with are helping you let go of being overwhelmed as much as possible. So the upside is this place of discerning what's happening with other people. The downside is you can get really flooded with other people's pain or what's going on in the world. I was with someone yesterday, and she was feeling exhausted and flooded with her concerns about politics and world affairs. And one of the characteristics of empaths is it's challenging to listen to news or to read the newspaper without taking in what you're reading. One of the ways I learned to deal with that was as soon as I saw something negative, I would just say, Goddess, take care of this. Angels, go talk to these people. I want divine intervention in this situation. So again, I'm connecting with my light body and I'm turning the pain body over to spirit. So I once had a therapist who said to me, I think you're going to realize that for the rest of your life, you need to ground 6 times a day. So let's do a grounding meditation. Take a breath, allow yourself to center, flow right into your grounding, and allow yourself to begin to open roots deep into the earth. You may have had grounding cords before. I think it's a good idea once a week or so to just release those, give them to someone who needs them, or release them into the earth. The reason for that is being empathic, we tend to ground other people. So I may find that I'm grounding my clients or I'm grounding my friends. I just give the grounding away and start fresh. Breathing in as if you could breathe into the base of your spine. Breathing out into the earth. And allow yourself to sink some deep grounding, deep roots into the earth. I've come to enjoy sending my grounding roots into veins of crystals, amethyst, citrine, or I really love tourmaline. Tourmaline is that striated stone that has these little pillars in it. And you can send your roots down and let them just sink into those striations. And it helps to anchor you. Helps me stay in my body more completely. And then roots, like the roots of a tree, serve you in helping you release energies you need to release. So just allow any toxic energies to move into the earth. She just transmutes it into energy. So breathing out, releasing those toxins right into the stones you've chosen, or if you prefer, of waters in the earth or the fire at the center of the earth. Do that for 2 or 3 breaths, each time bringing yourself deeper and deeper into your body as you clear and release. And then for a few breaths, imagine you can breathe up that energy from the earth so roots release toxins and absorb nutrients. So breathe up that beautiful crystalline energy or whatever you're sinking your roots into, and let the earth energy flow up your body. In some Kundalini circles, it's called the upward spiraling serpent. Let it spiral up your center, moving through each of your chakras and helping all of your inner flute or your inner column of light to feel that connection to earth. And breathe. Now, on your next few breaths, breathe in your light. Your essence is a being. Let it spiral down your center and follow it in, all the way in, and take up residence in your core, right in the center of your body. As deep as your roots are deep, imagine you can open branches right into your multidimensional nature, as if you can let the 1,000-petaled lotus flower on the top of your head blossom, or let it become like a tree, and the branches become smaller and smaller branches, and leaves also release toxins and absorb nutrients. So imagine you can release any toxic energy around your spirituality, your connection to source, your heart. Release that out through your branches and just give it to spirit. Let it be transmuted by the light of your being. And then for a few breaths, breathe in that light and the light from your being, from all your multidimensional self, all the way in, filling your core. Beautiful. Arriving in now and arriving in your center. The more you embrace your core, the more it becomes magnetic. So it tends to attract, to draw in your energy, and like a magnet, send away everyone else. The more you coalesce in your core, the stronger that magnetic quality is, and the more it works for you. So I encourage you to really come deep into yourself. If you need extra help or support, you can ask Divine Mother to hold you. And just imagine coming right into her arms. Let her hold you and enfold you. If you're feeling especially tender or you want nurturing, she's open to holding you anytime you ask. She loves to do it. So allow yourself to receive that support. And breathe. The more that you add this kind of meditation to your work, to your life, the more you're able to be in your center, and that's where all the resources are. That's where your spiritual resources are, your power as a being, and your capacity to access your intuitive nature, which is why I open the branches right into your multidimensional self, into your intuitive self. And then come sit in your heart. Let's go back to that heart one. Come and sit right in your heart chakra. You see this image, it's like there's a flame in the heart. And that is the flame of your divinity. It's everywhere, of course, but it's strongest in the heart. So when you come to sit in your heart chakra, you're able to be guided by your heart, and you're most closely aligned with all this information that's coming in from your empathic capacities. There's a meditation I've put on YouTube that is really like this meditation we just did. You're welcome to go to YouTube, put in my name, click on videos, and if you like it, record the audio, put it on your phone, take it wherever you go. It's a great 5-minute process of connecting to the earth, bringing in light, come into your heart. And then I have you make an altar in your heart. You might do that right now. Make an altar in your heart to what you most want from these classes, from this series. Just tune in for a moment to that flame in the center of your heart. What would you like the most from being here? And find a symbol or an image that represents what you want. For me, sometimes it's an overflowing chalice, bringing in light and information, wisdom, and flowing it out to others. The chalice gives me a sense of I have my own boundaries. I have a container that I fill. See what your symbol or image is. Put it on the altar in your heart and bless it. Imagine just calling in light from Source to bless that symbol on your altar. So I've been an empath all my life. When I was a child, I feel that I was running the emotions for my family a lot. And something would come up, I would feel all these emotions. They would look really good because they weren't affected by it. I'd run to my room crying. And I think that's often the case, that one person or more become like the emotional reservoir for the family. So I have an image that if this were two people, and each one of them has their feelings, their emotional content. If they're both feeling their own, it's kind of even. Everybody's taking care of themselves. Times you're not in emotion, times they're just a little bit of emotion, times there's a lot, and both people are taking care of their own emotions. However, what sometimes happens is this. So this person is not doing their emotional work. So those emotions come over here. Can you see that? Come over here, and this person is managing the emotions for both people or for everyone. Sometimes there'll be people who feel nothing, and they're often with someone who feels a lot. Just note if that is true of you, that you tend to be like the steam valve for others. You tend to be the one who feels what your partner isn't feeling, and or your family. And if that's so, then you may want to have a conversation or several about that, so that you're also encouraging them to feel their own feelings. Sometimes it's simply saying, seems to me that what you're feeling right now is such and so, because you're catching it in your body. So I have a curiosity. I don't have an answer yet, but I have a curiosity. How many people become empaths because of abuse in their lifetime, in their childhood, especially incest? Things that violate boundaries, so that the boundaries are never really created that strong in the first place. I think also neglect, because in a situation of neglect, the child takes care of the adult, and the adult, the child takes care of the adult with hopes that the adult will then take care of the child. So the boundaries become very permeable. But the child develops as this ever vigilant way of being that allows them to anticipate what they hope it allows them to anticipate what's going on with the adult. What do they need to be ready for? To hide, to run, to show up, to manage affairs for the adult, to be really cute and distract attention, or not be cute at all so you don't get attention. Each set of coping mechanisms is specific for that family. But I do feel many of us become highly sensitive, do so because as children we learn to merge. Merging was safe. It allowed us to understand what was happening. And if no one had boundaries in the family, how are you going to learn to have boundaries anyway? if they're not respecting your sovereignty. Merging can be wonderful. Making love is at an exalted level is merging. And I think it's great to be able to merge, but we want to be able to unmerge and not just stay merged. So in families where merging is a way of life, people tend to merge and then they're kind of like going around living each other's lives. In healthy families, there's the merging and the unmerging, everyone taking care of themselves with an interdependent way of being. So as we learn to take care of ourselves as empaths, we want to get to that interdependent way. Many of us learned to extend love. The codependent way, or the way where you're not taking care of yourself, is you extend love to the other person, you go out to them, and basically you're in their space offering this love. That can be lovely, can be really nice, except if they turn away, you feel abandoned. But when were you really abandoned? You see, when you left yourself to give the love, that's when you're abandoned. You don't feel it as long as they're receiving. What we want to learn is to be the love and to trust that if we be the love and extend our heart, that's enough for everyone. So I once asked Kuan Yin to show me how to be with a particular client that was really challenging. And she went into the room as if she were me and showed me some things. And then she came out and she said, this bit of guidance: touch the pain, be the love. Touch the pain, be the love. So you learn when you touch in with someone and you feel their pain or their emotions, that's information, especially if you're doing healing or a therapist, body worker, tune back in and become the love in yourself. So just notice, even as you've listened, are you still in your core? And can you keep coming back to your core? I'd really love for you to learn to be resident in your core, so that you really live in your core and come back to it over and over and over again. When you go out to the other person, that's the perfect storm for absorbing energy. And there's no one here to help you access the light that transmutes the energy. So just release, come in, maybe even close your eyes. With most people, you can even say something like, hold on a second, I want to center. I feel like I'm leaving my body. I want to get back in. Or find your language, whatever works for you. But take that moment to really come back to your center, to your core, so that you're in your light body instead of their pain body. So I found that I was always helping people. From 1978, I would be constantly serving people. Up to that time, I was serving people but having another job. And then I thought, if all I want to do is counsel and do healing, I want to bring it to the center of my life. But I felt like I didn't know enough. So I took all kinds of classes to give myself some intensive training in how to show up for people. And one of those was a class where I met my spirit guides. That was wonderful because I felt I never have to be alone in that room, that I have the support and help of my spirit guides. So from then on, I have worked with them to to gain guidance, to gain information, to gain support around whatever I'm seeking. Let's see where I'm at in my notes here. So many of these skills they've taught me, And one of them, very early, was to call in a waterfall of light, which you see in the image. So imagine you're tuning in to those beings that work with you in the chakras above your crown and inviting a waterfall of light, waterfall of crystalline, iridescent, liquid light. Let it wash through you, let it wash through your cells, let it wash down your back, through your core, through your energy field, and cleanse you front, back, sides, and center. Whenever I take a shower in the morning, I ask for this waterfall of light. I had a friend who came over after a long trip and he went, "Oh God, I need a shower. I need to get rid of some of this energy from the road and the person I was talking to." And I said, "I have a waterfall of light permanently installed in my shower." And he went, "Great." Went in, took a shower, and came out and said, "I feel so much better. Thank you so much. That was wonderful." So feel that waterfall of light. Just let it cleanse and clear, wash all around you, and offer to it everything you need to release. So I'd love to hear how that feels. If you'd like to share, raise a hand and Nadine will unmute you. And we can have a little share of what you're experiencing so far with these visualizations or anything you want to say about how empath skills show up in your life. I know some of you don't have your microphone on. You can type something in if you wish, and she'll give me the question. Do we have any hands? So someone wrote they couldn't see the picture. I hope you can now, Donna. Would you write in the chat and let me know you can? What to do if you can't, except maybe go back out and come back in. Also, down at your far right, you can change your view. You can just use the views we're using, but you can also change to webcam, and that will give you a larger version of my image. I think what I'd like to do is show you an even deeper version of the waterfall of light. So whenever I'm about to work with someone where I feel the energies might be toxic for me or really challenging, I work with this golden nectar of light. So in this, you're asking that the light that comes through be like a viscous light. And to me, it's almost like a golden crystalline light about the consistency of honey pours down over my body and makes a second skin of light. So just visualize this and go really slowly so it feels like it covers all of your skin, this golden nectar of sparkling iridescent light. All the way down, making a second skin of iridescent light. Feel it flow right down over your head, down the back of your head, the sides of your head, back of your neck, sides of your neck, your throat. Building this second skin, sparkling iridescent light, all the way down your back, over your shoulders, down your arms, all the way out to your hands, underarms. Just let it get all the nooks and crannies. Pouring down over your chest, your breasts, your sides, down your torso, encompassing you in this second skin of golden iridescent light. To me, this helps me feel that I'm sovereign in my body. I take on way less of other people's energy when I have on my second skin of golden light. Continue to see it going down your entire torso, covering your hips, your lower back, your buns, your pelvis, down your legs, your thighs, inner and outer thighs, back and front, over your knees, down your legs, all the way down to your feet, even between the toes, so that every part of your body is covered with this second skin of iridescent light. Once in a while, I've needed something even stronger, and I've had the angels put on like a suit of mail. You know, the old, what do you call them? The warriors. Anyway, the ones who wore the coat of mail. And so it's like layers of gold leaf, one under the other, all the way down the body, layered over the body itself. And then nothing comes in. It feels so safe. So very early in my training, I studied a bit with Rosalind Bruyere, and I learned some wonderful things about healing work and how to help transmute energies in the body and how to release energies from the body. One thing I quickly learned not to do. She would say, whatever you're drawing from the body, bring it through your hands and ground it through your body, which meant then I had to clear and clear and clear. I do not recommend it. So Barbara Brannon, you've got it, perfect. So there's an image here from Barbara Brennan's book, Hands of Light. And what you see with that is that you've got, if you're working with guides, they're all around the table. And now I've learned to let them do the work. And I just offer my hands to the process. Sometimes I'll put on a band of probably a blue iridescent light around my arms. So just my hands are in the energy. And then I'm giving energy to this angel and offering it up, letting my hands work, but my body is clear of the energies moving. So I'm in my light body, and the angels are dealing with their pain body. Every once in a while, I've come up to a table where someone is lying there to receive healing, and I've gone, whoa, there's a lot of energy in this person's energy field and a lot of karma in their subtle bodies. So I step back. I always use an invocation, and always, please, if you're working with guides, use an invocation, calling in the lightest, brightest, clearest. We'll use one when we go to the channeling. So I step back, I do the invocation. While I'm doing that, the guides will put on almost like a surgical gown. I put my arms through this gown of light and then put on gloves, and then they seal it in back. And now I can put my hands in, and I'm not touched by their pain body, and I can do a lot better work. I also give a lot to the guides and the angels to do. I might say, please use your wings and brush out their energy field. Or they might show me that's what they're doing. Because more and more, they're showing me what is possible. And when I turn it over, then every session I learn. Because I'm not just operating from my knowledge, I'm operating from an expanded sense of wisdom. And I think that's a lot of why our souls came in with these empathic abilities, that we're able to access all means of knowing, including from our body, that kinesthetic knowing, so that we can apply it to whatever it is we do. I did notice not long ago that when I was doing channeling, so I do the channeling seated and then I do the energy work. I was doing channeling, I was working with someone long distance, and because their body wasn't in front of me, I was imagining doing the cleansing on my body. And then I realized, whoa, you just stepped into what you're clearing. So I had a friend, we traded work, thank God for trades. And she said, no, 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 put them out on a mountaintop. I put them on the nearest mountain, or I see them in their room somewhere outside myself, and do the work on them outside of myself. It helped me take on a whole lot less. Um, and you can also release the energy with smudge, with sage, burning sage. Burning sage and cedar is good. I sometimes will also use copal, which will clear energy really well. Now we've got an image of that, the hand in the light. So just look at that and see. A lot can happen that you're not making happen if you offer your hand to the light. So I love to work with um, an incense that's frankincense and myrrh. And Nadine's going to type into the chat window the kind of incense. It's by Fred Soul, S-O-L-L, and it's resin. It's frankincense and myrrh. When I burn that in the space, it really clears energy. Because a lot of my people are able to um, enjoy things like incense or smudge. I sometimes will just invite them to let me use that in their field, either when they first come in, which lightens my work, or at some point during the healing to clear their energy field and let go of what needs to be released. If you want, you can also find this Fred Soul incense and a wonderful wonderful smudge sticks at Rosemary's Garden in Sebastopol, and they do have a website, and they do send packages anywhere. So that might also be helpful. I have a very large wand of selenite. It's a crystal structure that absorbs energy and helps to transmute energy. So I might move that through my energy field, or any crystals can help with that. Sometimes there's an old tool of taking someone's energy after they leave, or a friend that you've got too much in your space. Make a rose outside of yourself. Put an image of the person in the rose. Put all the energy of whatever's between you and the rose. When you get it all in the rose, send it out over the ocean or way out into the atmosphere. Let the angels take it and blow it up or burn it. They get their energy back, you get your energy back. So I was a little dubious about doing that with someone until I took a workshop 25 years ago, probably, with Shakti Gawain, and she had all of us put her in a rose and blow it up or burn it. And she said, "Thank you, I feel better." Because it just unmerges the energy. So everyone gets their energy back. You can also, if you're with someone and you want to not feel what you're feeling from them, you can ask an angel to stand between you and them. You can ask Divine Mother to stand between you and them. Sometimes when there's a hug and I'm not sure I want to receive that hug, I'll ask Divine Mother to stand between us and receive the hug. So I'm feeling her, she's feeling the other person, and everybody gets the hug. It works really well. Sometimes I'm coming to a session. You see, I work with angels a lot because they're really helpful and they're available to us every moment we ask. I might be coming to a session and feeling, whoa, I should be more grounded. So as I'm going, I'll ground, but I also might ask 3 angels to stand between me and my session room. And I walk through their wings and they just clear me, each one, a little more, a little more, a little more. Or when I leave a session, same thing, a little more each time. So, occasionally you might notice the feeling that people are really directing energies at you. If that's so, you may want to use more intense shields, and in the later classes, we'll work with some of those. I also often just ask the goddess Kali to work with us, or the angels to surround me. And sometimes I'll ask Archangel Michael, who has a blue flaming sword and a blue flaming shield, to put a shield between us. And there's a deeper protection we'll play with later, of laying down a wall of blue flame all the way around me. And that really helps with protection. Occasionally, if I can't clear someone's energy from my field, then I have to look at, is there karma between us? Do we have some past lives? Is there something unresolved between us? And work with clearing that. Sometimes I need to release cords between us, and we'll do that in one of the classes. We'll work with cords. Or clear what's bleeding through from another life. So I believe that we often call people into our world, even if it's painful, to complete whatever needs to be completed from other lifetimes or other realities. So it can be really helpful to do that work, see what you can learn. So is there anyone who would like to share at this point? Raise your hand. If you want your microphone unmuted, just raise your hand. We'll unmute your microphone. So we have this question from Zachary. I often have felt like I'm extracting energy from clients and was taught that to give to a grounding outside of myself in the form of roses. Letting the roses absorb the energy and ground that with the stems into the earth. That works. That works very well. So whoever's unmuted, you might turn your sound down. That's why we're getting that sound. So did we have a question? I think that whatever you do that allows you to really ground can be to ground the energy. And a rose, some people go put it in the earth. I have sometimes gone out and just laid on the ground and imagined that the earth encompasses me. So I can let all my chakras drain into the earth, turn over, let them clear again, and then imagine I just sink into the earth and become earth for a little while. And that's a beautiful way to clear as well. So that's beautiful, Robert. That the intention of staying energy neutral in your own energies, you work on other people's bodies. I think that's wonderful. Sometimes I'm able to do that, and it depends on whether there's a karmic connection, whether that actually is enough for me. So what I would like to do soon is go into channeling, unless we have more questions. So take a breath and just notice, are you still in your center? Are you still feeling that core in your body? So, as I'm channeling, if you want to type in a question or offer a question, please do. And I think next time I'm going to ask that people send some questions ahead because I really want this to be interactive with you and serve whatever you need in each class. So I began channeling in 1985. I was introduced to the Council of 12 from a guide that I had begun to work with in one of these classes. And this is one image of the Council of 12. There are many images. And as you see, they're both masculine and feminine ascended masters. Anytime you ask who's on the Council of 12, you'll get different answers because 12 is an energetic number. It is about the frequency of 12 more than counting the numbers. And each time I channel, I find the beings come that are related to the person who is asking and also to whatever their questions are. So you might be asking about relationships, and you might have one set of beings on the council. Often the goddess Aphrodite, that archetype, will come. You might ask about finances, and a different set of beings might be answering. So they are ascended masters. They've worked with this planet ever since its inception. There are many channels for the Council of 12. There's also councils of 3 and 5 and 7 and so on. And they are councils set up by the hierarchy to guide incarnational beings because they know it's not easy being here in this dense plane. And they're helping us access information and wisdom beyond our conscious knowing. I actually notice the more they work with me, the more they're helping me access my own highest truth. So the being that tends to be the one that the others come through is Babaji. Babaji is a 5,000 or more year old guru. No, he's not really a guru. He's an ascended master who maintains a body on earth. And he continues to be available to work with those in incarnations. He's not tied to his body, he can use it. If you read Autobiography of a Yogi, it talks about Babaji and how he appeared at the Kumbh Mela when Yogananda was there and his teacher, so that he showed up embodied, and then he and his disciples all just went into another space, left. They can move from mountaintop to mountaintop without needing to use their bodies to do so. So it means he understands what it's like to be incarnated, and yet he's not limited by it. So, or other beings have learned to speak through Babaji to me, which just supports my energy in staying really strong. So what I'd like to do is use an invocation. Okay, I'll answer Mari first. I often feel fatigue, exhausted. I'm wondering the role of being an empath. Absolutely. I find if I'm running other people's energy, it's what I call it, I will get very exhausted. I'll get really fatigued in my body. Sometimes it's like moving through fog or moving through something dense. I just wanted to go back to the other mode. I'm talking. And that's why I use so many clearing things. I think if I didn't clear, I would be tired most of the time. So now if I get tired or I get headachy, I don't just ask what's going on. I ask whose energy is this? And what do I need to do to release it? So it's probably good to always invite the angels to clear you, invite your guides to work with you, release whatever needs to be released, and see what happens to your energy. But I think a lot, especially that sudden fatigue, a lot of that is empathing other people's energy. Now, we're in a time of great planetary change. We're awakening the species to move from third dimension to fourth dimension. And in fourth dimension, there's a lot more unity consciousness, a lot more of understanding the purpose behind things. We're not so much affected by what we call our stuff, even though it's there. In third dimension, it's so real and it determines us. The reason I mention this is as we move to fourth dimension, many people are feeling a lot of fatigue, and they call it ascension syndrome. A lot of fatigue, sometimes a little dizziness, a little unsteadiness when you walk, tends to pass. And some of that's just that shift in consciousness. Again, I find if I ask my angels to enfold me, and the image you're seeing now is one of having a sphere of light around you. You're asked to be enfolded in a sphere of light. It often helps even with that. So my friend I trade with said, when you bring in your light and you make your sphere, stop using your own energy because you exhaust your resources. Bring in universal light and push it out in every direction. Just push it out all around you. So do that right now. Push it out in every direction. Let universal light do the work. And I find it's less draining for me. I used to think of this as holding protection, holding shields, but that's kind of a adversarial way of looking at it. Now I think of it as being in an energetic field of light. And the more I'm in my core, I'm using that magnetic power of being in my core, and then I'm using universal light to create the sphere around me, the less I take on energies and the less tired I am. So I would love to move into the channeling. So we're going to use an invocation of light. And go ahead and type in questions anytime you want. But right now, take a breath. Breathe in as if you could breathe in again to the base of your spine, breathing out into the earth. Drop into your deep grounding. Embrace your core. Let your light fill you. And this is the invocation which I encourage you to use anytime that you're working with guides, something like this. I ask the angels and archangels, please create for us a crystalline temple of radiant light all around each one on this call or when listening to the recordings, around each of us and myself. I ask that you clear and cleanse all energies not in the light around any of us, and weave for each one of us a chrysalis of radiance with universal light, filled with the rays and vibrations needed by each person, by their body, by their psyche, by their life. God, Goddess, source of all that is, encompass us in your radiance so completely that only beings serving the heart of love and light may participate in any way. Highest truth is all that is spoken. Deepest healing and guidance is received. If you will, each one of you breathe and ground, invoking your most radiant high self, calling in your highest self to assist you in receiving all you need, releasing all it serves to release, and filling with your radiance. Breathing in your light and light from Source. I welcome into this sacred temple we've created, the Council of 12. And I welcome those beings serving the heart of love and light, who are guides or loved ones for anyone else here. Greetings, dear one. We greet you, we bless you, we honor you. We invite each of you to allow your own healing guides and angels to surround you, to be right there with you, encompassing you in radiant light. We sense that for everyone listening to us, there's a different version of what empath means. So take what serves you and leave the rest. And know that as we're channeling, you may hear our words, but you may also hear your own guidance, responding to your specific concerns. If you will, allow yourself to feel encompassed in the light from your being, the light from Source, and that loving energy of Divine Mother. She has this beautiful heart womb, we call it, this capacity to have a lap big enough to encompass all of creation. And because she multilocates, she can be there with each of you, allowing her to enfold you and to be with you. So the image now is of Kuan Yin, one of the versions of Divine Mother. What I love about Kuan Yin is she's a bodhisattva who has agreed to stay connected to the incarnational world as long as any being is suffering. So when you give her your suffering, you're helping her with her work. So right now, any place you're suffering, just say, Kuan Yin, absorb this suffering. Any place anyone you love is suffering, Kuan Yin, absorb their suffering. Make use of us. Make use of our capacity to be with you and our desire to serve you. Evelina likes to joke that she bosses us around a lot, but she also jokes that we boss her around. It's a collaboration that we seek. Some people think of the guides as if they're somehow outside of you, but it's a collaboration. We're all just part of one being. And as you tune in to this one being and tune in to guidance, you're actually accessing more of yourself on other planes of existence. So you chose as a being to be highly sensitive, to be empathic, and you chose it for a reason. It serves your soul's plan and your purpose on the planet. And the more you allow yourself to really utilize the energies of these empathic abilities, the more you're able, I'm trying to change something here, I'm just going to focus. The more you're able to access wisdom and knowledge beyond your own. And then you're in a healing session, you have the courage to say what comes through you, and someone says, wow, that's amazing. I don't know how you knew that. And you smile inside because you know that you only knew it because you're accessing these other levels of information and wisdom. So just think what your questions are. Even if you don't have a microphone, we do. We'll be able to hear you. So we're sensing a desire to understand more about where you're picking up these empathic abilities. Some people feel it in their heart chakra, like their heart expands or contracts, and that's actually part of the internal guidance system. That your heart expands when you touch something that is a positive, of growth producing energy. It contracts to something that isn't good for you or that needs some assistance. So when you feel that, then you call in your spiritual helpers to help work with that energy, whatever's making your heart contract. Some people have more of a gut sense. So they may feel it in their solar plexus. They may feel it somewhere in their body. The time Evelina spoke of feeling someone else's pain, she felt it everywhere. It was like the whole body kind of gets taken over by that pain. Occasionally, if someone has a lot going on in their head or they've got static in their connection to source, you may feel a buzzing in your crown. You may feel like and like being too activated. And again, you want to investigate. What's this mean? Whose is this? What's it telling me? Often, if you don't know what to do with it, ask to have it released and see what happens. If it releases, it probably wasn't yours. If it doesn't release, then ask, what's the message? What am I to learn here? And ask your own guides to come in and help you with that message. People are saying they're not able to raise their hands. What does that mean?
Status. Statuses.
Well, they probably, can you see the hands? Type in if you can see them. No. Then go down to the bottom right and click on a little arrow and go to default layout, and you can see the hands there. You won't see as much of me, but you'll see the hands. I'm sorry, this website, Learn It Live, is it's not easy to work with, to say the least. We've been challenged by it. So for now, can we unmute all the microphones? Mm-hmm. Okay, we will unmute the microphones, but please make sure there's not sound in your background.
Go say hi, Marlon. Good. Go say hi. Go say.
So we're getting a lot of sound and talking to other people. Turn your volume down. We're going to be unmuted. And is there someone who wants to ask a question? You can also mute your own microphone. Like whoever's typing, please mute your microphone. Okay. Now you see the hand. Great. So, Serena, did you have a question? Serena, did you have a question?
No, but I'm happy to be here.
Oh, it's wonderful to have you here. Thank you.
Next time I will have a question, I promise.
Okay, great. Thank you.
But I actually, if I don't know if we have time, I feel very ungrounded by the instability of the political situation and the debt crisis here in Puerto Rico and the university where I've dedicated 19 years of my work. It has been so ungrounding for me.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's why I signed up.
Great. Good. So let me allow the council to respond to that, okay?
Sure.
Go back into my channeling mode. So greetings to you all again. We would say, Serena, that you want to allow this situation to be outside yourself and ground with that really deep sense of bringing your light right into your core so that you're 100% in your core, in your center. The deepest grounding is to send those roots into a vein of some kind of crystalline structure and then go back several times a day to ground again. We feel that a lot of this energy is almost like static in your third eye and your crown, as if you've taken in the political situation, and it's certainly in the air where you are. So you could use your hand and just clear your third eye, clear your crown, move it further out. And perhaps you might ask for a team of guides and angels to hold it, to really take on the task of holding the energy of bringing balance and stability to the political situation and the financial situation. And whenever you feel it touching you, call them again and give it to them. So you keep giving it over to them. There's a way we say many empaths try to do God's work. It's challenging not to want to jump in and do something about it. But this is where you tell guides and angels to work with it. You can ask a specific set of guides or angels to be in the offices of political figures. You can ask them to speak to people through the media, so they're hearing the media's message, but they're also hearing another message. And as we said, each time you sense something coming into you from these energies, to call for whatever outcome you wish. So you hear news of instability, you say, okay, God, we're bringing stability here. Okay, universe, this has got to change. This is what we want. This is how it's going to go. And you can visualize that already happening out in the future. We put a really beautiful 4-minute video on YouTube called Femifesting. And it's kind of a play on words from manifesting, but there's a big difference. In Femifesting, you go out into the future you desire, you visualize it, you visualize yourself being in it, and enjoy. We got it settled. We've got this whole land is finally operating out of sanity. And how does it feel? How does it feel when it's resolved? And go sit in that future. Because when you sit in the future and you actually experience the resolution already happening, it puts an anchor in the future, and it tends to bring your life and that of others to that future. So that might be a nice visualization for you to work with, or email for you to, or video for you to work with.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Femifesting. So would you type in
Is
femifesting?
it?
It's like man, only it's femifesting. She's going to type it in. So, Holly, I want to answer your question. What's the best way to learn to talk to your spirit guides? Oh, so many ways. I think, well, let them answer it. This is the problem with the chat room, is it takes me in and out of the channeling, but here we go. One of the easiest ways to work with your spirit guides is to sit in deep meditation, maybe using one of the ones we've suggested, and to sit at your altar, have a pad and pen nearby, maybe have something to record nearby. And as you sit at your altar, ask for the highest, clearest, brightest, most radiant guides to work with, to come and be with you. Guides most aligned to your highest good, to your soul's plan. You can use the invocation we used earlier, or this one of something like this of your own. And then sit in stillness and ask them to speak with you, and ask them to teach you how to speak to them. And then at some point, you're going to feel like you're starting to write. Let yourself write. And immediately, the ego mind goes, is this them or is this you? And you want to say, I don't know. Don't get in the argument with it. And it'll come back again. How do you know this is your guide speaking? I don't. But I'm wise. It doesn't matter. So as we said, it's a collaboration with spirit. So when you let yourself actually write what you're getting, it may be partly your intuition, it may be some of guidance, it doesn't matter, because it's allowing you to begin to open the channels of communication. In the beginning, it's a little like, the old-fashioned water faucets that you had to pump, and you pump and you pump, and it comes out in spurts, and it's pretty rusty, and then eventually you get a fresh, clear flow. So it's a little like that. You have to start somewhere. So you start by either writing or speaking and dismiss the questions. Let yourself record what's coming through in that collaboration. Over time, it will get stronger. Sometimes it's helpful to call in a specific guide with a very specific question, ask the question, and then sit and let the answer happen for you. Now, there's an interesting thing with female guides, with master teachers who are in the feminine form, because often the guidance comes in a holistic fashion. It comes in the energy of light. You receive it in your heart. You receive an empathic impression of the response. And it's not so much a talking. It's more a communication, a sensing of the response. And then you start using it in your life and you realize, I did get my answer. It's showing up in how I'm speaking to other people. With ascended masters who are masculine, sometimes it's more speaking. And yet it's not like you hear with your ears. It's an inner speaking. It almost feels like your own mind thinking. So you ask a question that you might not know the answer, and then you listen, and it feels a little deeper than your mind would speak, or a little richer than your mind might respond. Over time, you come to trust it more. But it's kind of like riding a bicycle. You can't wait to ride a bicycle until you learn how. And a lot of people are waiting to talk with their guides until they learn how. You just start somewhere. You invite your guides to sit with you. You ask questions. You respond either by writing or speaking or by tuning into the light, and see what happens. Another lovely way to work with guides is to imagine they're there, whether you can feel, sense, or see them or not, and ask them to guide your words, your thoughts, your actions. So whenever something happens where I get reactive, as much as possible, I try to just let that be inside and to go to prayer and to say, Goddess, guide my words, my thoughts, my actions. Or I might call upon a specific guide to do so. And in that, what comes through, I realize we are communicating, because what I say works better than what I would have said otherwise. I think there's a tendency to think that someday you'll be able to see your guides, you'll be able to hear them, it'll be clear like they're in the room. Well, I once asked the Council of 12 when someone else was channeling them to me, what will it take for me to get to where I can see you? And the response was, consider yourself lucky. By not being able to see us, you're not fixating us at a certain age, a certain form, a certain way of being. And we're universal beings. We've had many, many lifetimes. So Saint Germain, for instance, you'll see a certain image of him, but if you look him up on Google Images, you'll see 40, 50, 60 images, because he appears in different ways at different times in his lifetime, which was several hundred years long. And on the inner plane, he may appear differently again. So I've let go of trying to see them. There are certain beings like Babaji that I sometimes see. And it's more looking in his eyes. That's what's universal. And I may now hear him. We have conversations. It's taken a while to develop. So like riding a bicycle, give yourself time to learn. Do we have any other questions? Looks like it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome. So helping others ground more, be more in their core to make gatherings of all sites, all sorts, pujas, cuddle groups, etc., safer and allow everyone to go deeper. Curious what your guides have to say about this. Well, Zachary, absolutely. You're getting accurate information. We feel that capacity to ground that's been so important to your own healing is a skill that you have to teach others and to develop more and more ways to do this. Grounding is something many people do at the beginning of a gathering, like a cuddle party. They get everyone grounded and assume that serves the whole time. It serves until people get triggered. And when someone gets triggered, what tends to happen is the part that can ground leaves, that's the dissociation, and the part that doesn't know how to ground is what stays, because what gets triggered is the young part. And as a child, the young part is what gets wounded, and the part that leaves is the part that grows up, becomes spiritual, learns all these tools, and can ground. So when you're guiding something like a puja or a cuddle party, include grounding every so often. So with Evelina's pujas, which I, as Babaji, am often there supporting and being a part of, every station, every time they move to a new partner, we invite a grounding of sorts. Come into your heart, sit in the center of your heart, let your heart expand and receive from the center of your heart. That's a version of grounding. Doesn't always have to be grounding cords and all of that. But come into your core. What's it like to receive this from your core? What's it like to allow yourself to feel what's happening for you? And then speak from those feelings so that you're participating in the the interactions with others from that grounded place. Every once in a while you can check in and say, like we have today, are you still in your core? Are you still grounded? It's really about being embodied, isn't it? Sometimes you can say, can you feel your entire body? Can you feel your feet, your legs, your hands, your arms, your head, your core all at the same time? Can you feel your grounding? Can you feel your light all at the same time? So it's about coming to that place of being inclusive of all of you. That's really what grounded means. It means embodiment. So we would say that a lot of what you bring to gatherings that you lead is this ability to take people into a deeply embodied space. And that allows everyone to benefit from being there. So, do you have any more questions? Sorry that the raising hands is so challenging. We'll find another way next time. Well, let's see what else the council wants to say. Simply, we love you all. We would ask that between now and your next class, next Monday, that you think through, what would I most like to know from this work? And either send it through the inbox on Learn It Live or send an email to Evelina so that that information is here and we can use it to add to the channeling and also to the class. We also encourage you to really practice these skills, practice this deep grounding. What you'll discover, the more that you work with your capacities as an empath, the more you come to know that these are wonderful talents, amazing skills that you have because you're in touch with your divinity in a way that some people are not. Evelina spoke about how being an empath often comes from having been wounded in some way or abused in childhood, and that seems to have some truth because that's the way that certain people get cracked open enough that they're able to access these deeper levels of knowing. Now, fortunately, many children are coming in with these abilities already open and able to be utilized. So, Robert, what is balance regarding love and practicality? Do we have an hour? We'll come back to this question next time. We think if you let yourself be guided, you'll know that the love, when you go into love, there's a tendency to expand and to open. And yet you can still be in your core and so grounded that spirit can speak through you and work through you. So how do you come to that kind of balance? By probably for you, it's a matter of allowing one and then the other and one and the other until you feel that there's a continuum between them, so that you're moving into more of that figure 8 wants to come, that sense of unity consciousness where you're operating with a little higher view of both love and balance, both love and practicality, so that they're operating simultaneously. So there's not a duality. And that's what this fourth dimensional consciousness is about, which is coming to a plane of existence beyond duality. And wherever you're seeing this or this, you don't have enough options. You want to proliferate options and you want to come to learn what's between those two things that seem different from each other. You have another question? Again, it's got a longer answer than our few minutes, but we'll be with a bit of an answer. How do you invoke the supportive guides in this transition? You might begin to use that femifesting of seeing yourself actually in the new life and ask your guides to help you see what the steps are from there to here. That's one way to work with it. And you can invoke guides anytime. You can ask for a transition team. You can say, who are the highest, brightest, clearest, most radiant guides to help me create this transition in my life? When you do that, you start seeing them show up. And any guide you work with, you could go onto Google Images and pull down images of those guides. You might make an altar to this transition with the images of these beings on the altar, whatever appeals to you, because that's who you're wanting. That's what you're calling to yourself. And then sit at your altar and speak to this team to assist you in being guided in moving forward. How can I distinguish between, this is going to be our last question, but you can keep putting them in and we'll have them for next time. How can you distinguish between intuition and fantasy? Intuition, if you take it into your heart, it feels really real. It makes your heart expand. Fantasy is more the head, it's dreamy, might feel wonderful. If you feel it's fantasy, occasionally take it out and just blow it up or burn it. Come into your heart and ask what's really true. What's intuition has an embodied sense and a heartful sense to it. The heart will guide you. There's so much more to say about these questions and many more. We're excited about being a part of your classes to come. And right now, we'd like to complete as a council. Thank you so much for being a part of this work. We'll let Evelina close the class. We honor you, we bless you, and we release this connection for now, though any of you can call us anytime you wish. Bless you and bless this earth with so much radiant healing that all beings feel the love and the light of Source. Blessed be. So, dear ones, tune in next week at this same time. Please come early and maybe play a little bit with the screen so you get to know more how to use it. And in between now and then, feel free to send us any questions, any stories about yourself as an empath, but please keep them brief, and that will help inform our next class. We'll be doing other meditations and visualizations, so I really encourage you to totally focus when we're in class. And I'm very open to your input or your feedback. This is a co-creative experience, and even if this website makes this a bit of a challenge, you can either write to my email that's listed here or online. I'll be watching the inbox. Thank you for being a part of this. I honor you. I bless you. I ask that your lives be deeply blessed with healing, with love, with light, and with the presence of spirit. Namaste.